Well, it's a new month, so that means a new deck. I played Hero Boba Fett on the last month so that I could give that deck a try, and it actually worked out pretty good. I liked it quite a bit. But this month we are looking at the Mandalorian, the other trial deck leader. Now, that's the reason why I did not do a deck profile on it, because I know I will be hitting this leader up and putting some time in September. And this is what my attempt going to be for it. So, what does Dinjarin do? When you play an upgrade, you're able to exhaust it in order for you to exhaust a unit with 4 or less remaining HP. This allows you to try to control how much damage you're going to be taking and from what sources. And then once you get to 6 resources, you're able to flip him. He's a 4/7, and he has the ability to do the same thing except for with 6 or less remaining HP. So it scales as the turns go, and it's not once per turn. So you could play like multiple upgrades and get that effect multiple times. This guy's pretty fun, pretty strong. Sometimes you can manipulate your opponent's HP so that you could then do things with this. But yeah, he's pretty strong, pretty fun. A lot of people play him with blue because that's how the trial deck came out. I even seen some people do double yellow. But we are doing a 30 health aggression base. The reason for that is that I want to be able to put enough pressure back on my opponent. So far, the format seems to be either hyper aggression, which this could to some degree help you out against, or really deep control. So you have to have enough aggression to be able to deal with the really deep control decks while also having enough control to be able to go against the aggressive decks, but while also hitting back hard. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to do with this. More like a aggro control tempo-y type of deck. All right. So before we get into the deck profile, I just want to shout out a gentleman at my locals. His name is Malcolm. And what he is doing is he has a store over on Whatnot. Whatnot is a video platform where people are, doing pack openings, case breaks, things like that. And then they have bids and buys on the cards that they get from it. So I will have a link down in the description as well as here on the screen showing you where you could go in order to link up with them. Let them know that VG Time sent you. So anyway, we have, starting with ground, 2 copies of Spec Force Soldier. Never leave home without it. This right here basically is a staple for any red aggression deck that's heroic because the ability to take away Sentinel from a card is huge. It prevents your deck from being completely hoed, and it doesn't care where the Sentinel is at. So, for example, I had out a couple Green Squadron A-Wings. That shouldn't be a spoiler for you. And the guy put down a Clan Saxon Space Sentinel, the 5/6 jammy. And he was like, oh yeah, it's going to take a bunch of effort to get through that. I was like, word, that's crazy. And then killed him. So, like, you got to have it on deck at all times. So, after that, we got 3 copies of Sabine. Should go without saying, Sabine is one of the best turn 1 plays in the game. We also have 3 copies of Ketsu Onyo, who is gaining more and more respect from me. So, Ketsu Onyo is pretty bad if you are off initiative, just because it has the 2 toughness. But if you're on initiative, she is pretty strong. And also the ability to pop upgrades cost 2 or less is also extremely strong. The Saboteur, to be able to bypass Sentinel is good. And also to be able to pop shields off of things. So, like, one of the things that happens sometimes is that you're looking at a Sentinel with a bunch of shields on it. You could just go, okay, cool. We're just going to either deal the damage and pop a shield, or if they have multiple shields, you're just going to swing straight into it, pop all the shields, because Saboteur doesn't just pop 1, and then deal 3 damage to the thing, possibly killing it. You think about stuff like that when you're dealing with like a Kira matchup, for instance. Going to the 3s on ground, we got Cassian Andor. He kind of plays double duty in the deck. He is both a 3-drop if you have nothing better to do on 3, but he's primarily my 5 resource play, depending on what's going on. The fact that he could be smuggled gives him a lot of versatility as far as when he could be played. You might be thinking, well, making a 5 drop 3/5 isn't great, but because it comes in active mode, is actually not a problem because he's going to deal the 3, and then if he survives, he's going to deal the next 3, which means he's dealing 6, which is kind of what you're doing with 5 drops anyway, such as Poe Dameron. This one right here, it's testing okay, but it's probably going to come down in the number. We have Fighting for Freedom, or Fighters for Freedom. Of course, play an aggression card, deal a damage to an opponent's base. And then we have 2 copies of Fleet Lieutenant. I might actually just drop a copy of Fighters and add 1 more copy of Fleet Lieutenant, just because it works more so with the theme of the deck. So the deck isn't all rebels by any means, but it doesn't have to be a rebel in order for this to make the card attack. So basically, you're just doing an economy of action. You play this, attack with something. If it happens to be a rebel, it deals 2 more damage. So you're fine with that. At 4, we have Cosca Reeves. This card right here has surprised me with how good it is. And seeing how good it is, it surprised me that a lot of people don't play it outside of like strict Mandalorian decks. She is a house. So she's a 4/5 to begin with, which makes her well statted for the 4 slot. A lot of 4 slots are 4/4 or 5/4s or some other weird combination of such. So she's actually, perfectly good there. And then if you're able to upgrade her at all on swing, she deals 2 damage to a ground unit. So that means she could sometimes trade up into something really gross or pick off something else that is out there. Usually the turn after you play her, you're going to upgrade her, which means you get to rest something that might actually be a real threat to her. And like I said, swing into something or swing at base and then kill off something else. We have at the top of our curve, Gorilla Attack Pod. A lot of people might be going, hey, why not like Wrecker or something like that? And it's simply because I'm trying to end the game on that turn. So either I'm flipping and doing a bunch of stuff, or I'm flipping and playing Gorilla Attack Pod, depending on what the board state is, to be able to clean up the game. You want to not drag it out too far, because if you drag it out too far, then you're just going to lose in this format because the control decks are too good now. Going back to space, we have Green Squadron A-Wing, Gray Squadron Y-Wing, and this card is also really good at dealing with shields, getting damage on things, so that then jarring ability works a little bit better. This card keeps gaining my respect. We have Red 3, which is a staple in all heroic red aggression decks. We have the Simmling Fang Fighter. Now, what's cool about this card, you might think Falcon is best in slot, and I would be inclined to agree with you, but this is a call for my local meta. There's a lot of Tarkin running around, so I have to care about Traitorous being main deck and decks. They are obviously teching for each other, so I have a lot of my deck that can be hit with Traitorous. What I don't want to do is have zero way of dealing with the card they just took from me or dealing with the Traitorous itself. Disabling Fang does the job. It also serves another purpose, which we'll get into shortly. Now we have 3 copies of Surprise Strike. This is our only event in the deck. This just gives us 3 damage for 2, which is usually enough to punch us through to win a game or something like that. Now we are where we were looking for, which is the upgrades. We play quite a bit in this deck, as you should, for a Mandalorian deck, but they are all server purpose. So, 1, Snapshot Reflexes. This card right here gives us a Fleet Lieutenant or whatever type of effect by allowing us to upgrade the unit for 1 and attack that with that unit. That unit gets the static +1/+1 boost from a Snapshot. And of course, this allows us to rest in Jaren to rest one of your opponent's units. So if you happen to have initiative, this is like a really powerful turn 2 play. You could turn 1 Sabine or this right here. And then turn 2, snapshot, rest whatever they played on turn 1, hit for a bunch of damage. And now put them in a position where they're still going to be behind. We also have Arm to the Teeth. This is one of my favorite 2 plays as well. If you have like a space unit situation or a ground unit that is like if you're opposite of whatever your opponent played, right? So if you went space, your opponent went ground, then the turn 2 play is a play Arm to the Teeth, vice versa. Ground, they went space. Use Din Djarin to rest the opposite unit. This effect is really great. What it does is it allows you to, on attack with a unit, to give another unit +2/+0. It already gives a static +2/+0, so it counts as basically 4 damage for 2. If you smuggle it, it actually kind of works out because by then you have enough aboard that if you smuggle this onto something, you're going to rest the unit, and it smuggles for 4. It'll rest the unit, and then you'll be able to swing with that unit in that area, pumping another unit, and then getting damage off that way. Then we have 2 copies of Heroic Resolve. This card right here is also solid. It only costs 1. 1 cost triggers for Din Djarin is Prime, so we are definitely about it. And then its ability to pay, I believe it's 2, sack it, so give the unit +4/+0 and overwhelm, and tag with it is also pretty good as well. Then we have our next set of upgrades. Now, these upgrades could go on anything, so that means you could put these things even on space units and Gorilla Attack Pod, and you don't have to worry about what it is that you're putting it on. These next ones require you to be put on actual non-vehicle units. So we have Hotshot DL-44 Blaster. This card right here is kind of the reason why the deck gets played, right? You could resource it and then smuggle it for 3, and it gives +2/+0 as a static boost, but allows you to attack with the card. So in a sense, it's sort of like a Fleet Lieutenant, just with a static +2. It also costs 1, so push come to shove, you could play this like on a turn 2 on a ground unit, rest one of their units, and get in for 5 damage on turn 2, while then having the resources up to be able to play like another ground unit or a space unit. Jetpack. This card has impressed me quite a bit. I have put it on quite a few units, units that I wanted to be able to live, because I know people would try to crack it back. Now they have to really think hard because they can't just run into your guy and kill it with their smaller guy. Now that guy is just going to die, and then you still have the ability to put pressure on with +2/+0. You'll also use it to be able to take out one of their units because the shield will keep it alive. And yeah, it's just overall solid card. And then we have for Flash the Darksaber. The Darksaber actually has substance in this deck. Of course, the play is to flip your leader and then Darksaber it, and hopefully you have out a couple Mandalorians, which is why Disabling Fang is also important because it is a Mandalorian. So when you swing with a unit equipped with the Darksaber, you are able to give an experience to Disabling Fang Fighter. But I also don't just play it on the Mandalorian. I also play it on Casca Reeves because that's very strong right there too. She becomes an 8/8, which is very difficult to deal with that early in the game. And then again, she's swinging, she's pinging, and she's giving out experience candies to the good boys and girls of Mandalore. And that is basically the deck. It's pretty aggressive. It deals a lot of damage at once. It's again trying to clear out the game by turn 5-6. Like on 6, you want the game to be over. Not turn 5-6, but resource 6, you want the game to be over. And yeah, that's it. I hope to catch you guys again next time. And this is Fiji Time.